Jimmy thought of the boys out front and had no interest in going out there again. "No thanks, Dad. I'm going to look at my clothes again," he said. "Okay, well, I'll lock the door and be back in 20 minutes. "Okay, Dad," Jimmy said as he dumped out the clothes onto his bed. He looked at the short that his dad would let him get, and the one Jimmy thought would glow in the dark. He was excited to see if it glowed, so he grabbed the short, ran into his closet, and shut the door tight. There was some light coming out of the bottom of the closet door. Jimmy found a dirty sweatshirt on the floor and used it to block the incoming light. It was so dark he could barely see his own hands. To his amazement, the shirt was glowing. It had a dinosaur with big teeth on the front of it. The trees in the background were so bright it looked like it was shining from behind them. Jimmy thought the shirt was cool and was glad his dad let him have it. "Too bad we can't go to school at night," Jimmy thought to himself. "Then I could wear the shirt and look so cool. Maybe," he thought, "I would look cool enough that some of the kids would want to be my friend. Maybe Robert would even like it and be nice to me." Jimmy knew that wasn't possible, and his stomach sank as he thought about going to school without Mason there to help him get through the day. He sighed and realized that he wouldn't do any good to think about that now. He went into the living room and turned on the TV, but there was no avoiding summertime reruns, but Jimmy flipped through the channels anyway. The Life of Timmy Truly was on, and Jimmy liked the show. It was about a kid who could get anything he wanted just by wishing. Jimmy knew he could never have that kind of life, but he enjoyed watching the show because Timmy just had to think about what he wanted, and then he would get it. This episode was about Timmy and his lunchtime at school. He was in line at the lunch counter, and he glanced at the food they were serving that day. Timmy whispered to his best friend Sean, "Not meatloaf again." "Ugh," said Sean as they both laughed. Jimmy knew that the meatloaf must have been really bad if Sean didn't want to eat it, because he once watched an episode where Sean ate a cookie he took out of the trash. On the show, Jimmy closed his eyes and made a wish. It looked as the kind of wish you'd make right before you'd blow out your birthday candles. He said to himself, "I wish they had pizza, I wish they had pizza, I wish they had pizza." As Timmy opened his eyes, he could see the lunch ladies coming to take the empty pans away. The lunch lady announced that there was no more meatloaf, and she apologized about serving pizza instead. Sean looked at Timmy and then back at the lunch lady. After realizing what had just happened, Sean patted Timmy on the back. "Man," Sean said to Timmy, "you're the luckiest guy I ever met." Timmy just smiled and took a bite of his pizza, and then the show ended. Stay tuned for the next episode of The Life of Timmy Truly, where Timmy's birthday party almost gets rained out. As the show ended, Jimmy heard the key in the door and looked over as it opened. His dad was carrying a grocery bag full of goodies. Then Jimmy remembered what his dad had told Angie. Right then and there, he wished he could have had enough money for groceries and gas for his truck. Jimmy laughed as he thought about it, but then he closed his eyes without his dad noticing. After his eyes were shut, he repeated, "I wish my dad had money for all groceries and gas for his truck. I wish my dad had money for all groceries and gas for his truck. I wish my dad had money for all groceries and gas for his truck." Jimmy laughed again. After he opened his eyes and looked down, he realized he was still wearing the jacket he had gotten from Millie's. It was still summertime, and it had been quite cool in the morning while they were riding the bus. It was nice and warm now, and Jimmy decided it was time to take the jacket off. He went to his room, hung it in the closet, and shut the door. "Jimmy," his dad yelled, "I have to go back to the store. I forgot my mayo for the sandwiches for our lunch. Want to go with me?" Jimmy looked out the window and saw that Robert and his friends were gone. He decided he'd go with his dad to the store. As he walked out the door, Jimmy realized watched his dad count the change that he had in his pocket. He had $2.50. Well, buddy, we will just buy a small mail today, huh? Jimmy nodded. His dad smiled, but Jimmy felt a little guilty about wanting that glow-in-the-dark short. Maybe if he hadn't bought the short, his dad would have had enough money to get the large mail. Or Jimmy thought, if I had been as lucky as the boy on TV, maybe my wish will come true. Jimmy smiled while remembering his wish and hoped it would somehow come true. On the way to the store, Jimmy thought back to when they did have all the money, when they did have money, and how happy his dad was then. He wished there would be a day when his dad would be that happy again. Before Jimmy knew it, they were at Max's Market. As they walked towards the store, Jimmy's dad put his hand out in front of Jimmy. They could hear a man yelling inside, and Jimmy's dad looked worried. "Stay here," Jimmy's dad said in a very serious tone. Jimmy stayed outside the store as his dad walked in. Jimmy could see the store owner standing behind the counter looking very scared. Jimmy saw a tall man with a black leather jacket yelling at the people in the store. The man had a bag and said something about money, but Jimmy couldn't hear exactly what the man was saying. Jimmy hoped his dad would be okay and that he knew what he was doing. Bill had been a wrestler in high school and come in fourth place many times. Jimmy was hoping his dad would remember the same moves and use them on this guy if he needed to. Just then he saw his dad leap forward and grab the guy. They must have fallen on the ground because Jimmy couldn't see his dad or the man with the black leather jacket anymore. People ran out of the store screaming to call the police. They said that a male customer caught the thief and had pinned him to the ground. Jimmy waited nervously outside, not knowing what he should do. Just then he heard sounds, and he waited outside until the police arrived. The police calls came. 1, then 2, then 3, now 4, now 5. They surrounded the store and told everyone, including Jimmy, to back away. Jimmy watched and almost started to cry as he heard his police that yelled, "Get back! We have someone armed and dangerous inside. Get back now!" It seemed like forever to Jimmy, and he felt like he might pass out. He was worried about his dad and wanted to make sure he was all right. Tears were forming in his eyes as he tried to think about what he should do. Just then, a police officer yelled, Jimmy Townsend, are you out here?" "Here? I'm Jimmy," he said nervously. The police officer couldn't hear him over the crowd, but slowly the man who sold newspapers at the corner newspaper stand recognized Jimmy and held his arm out and said, "Here he is. Billy's son Jimmy is here. I think he's a little frightened though." "It's okay," the officer said. "Jimmy, your dad is inside. He's okay. Come with me and I'll take you to him." Jimmy looked at old Sully, who was still holding his hand. "Go with him, boy. Everything is all right," he said.